The Souls genre is stuck in a paradox, but this might be what breaks it free. And when I say stuck, I don't mean the games recently have been bad. In fact, Elden Ring and his game-sized DLC were some of the greatest gaming experiences we've ever seen. But there's one major problem, and it's not just for Souls-likes, but for games as we know it. It seems like every game nowadays wants to try and have the scale of Skyrim with the high-fidelity realistic graphics, but what ends up happening is that with so much of a game's resources going to scope and visuals, it lacks what games truly need and what players actually want. Amazing gameplay that feels fun, intuitive, and rewarding, stylized visuals that fit the game world, and an excellent story. It doesn't have to be the next Lord of the Rings, but a compelling enough story makes games way more fun to play through. The reason I say this now is because what I'm playing is brutal, beautiful, and has a well-written story so far. It's not even in 3D. See, when we talk about the Souls genre, usually talking about a sprawling 3D worlds within a well-crafted but liminal space. Except Elden Ring. While most haven't been known for super crazy graphics, they're breathtaking. They feature some of the best views in games such as Majora or looking out at the Erd Tree. Elden Ring set the bar for scale and exploration in the genre, as well as being the first true open world version. But that scale does come at a cost. Every inch of terrain needs assets, animation, optimization, and that limits how experimental these games can be, especially when not backed by a massive studio like From Software. Now imagine stripping that down, keeping the gameplay, the weight of the story, but shifting the perspective. Suddenly you can focus on sharper storytelling, more stylized visuals, and mechanics that don't need to play by 3D rules. That's exactly what No Rest for the Wicked does. A game that feels like a love child between Dark Souls and Path of Exile, but with its own niche carved out. It's got your usual punishing timing-based Souls-inspired combat, but it also features some of the most beautiful stylized visuals I've seen in a game in a long time, probably since Hollow Knight. I played blind and on the hardest difficulty, so I'm still unpacking how to actually get good at the game, but I still had a blast. Here's my first impressions with No Rest for the Wicked by Moon Studios. The game starts with a fairly typical cinematic style intro that briefly explains the plot of the game, but we're going to skip past that so you can experience it yourself. We start the game on board a boat, where our player character, called the Serum, is being transported to an island. The game doesn't really explain too much about what the Serum actually is early on, but the general populace seems to be either really afraid of them, or really safe by our presence. A good comparison is to how people feel about Geralt and the Witchers in The Witcher 3. We then get shown to our quarters below deck and go to sleep, where surely nothing bad ever happens when you sleep aboard a boat in a game. So, naturally of course, we woke up to a cannonball slamming into the side of the hole right where we were sleeping. Scurrying out of bed, we picked up our first weapon and went through the basics of combat in the tutorial. Combat felt pretty intuitive and rewarding, offering the usual Souls-like mechanics of blocking, dodging, parrying. This game also features a sort of poise system to where you can break the enemy's guard. The parry system in particular is super satisfying, and the weapon effects that go with it make it feel that much cooler. After making it atop the decks, we fend off the boarders taking over the ship, only for the boat to crash into the rocks. Another cinematic place, but this one is rather important. The king of the mainland died and the prince takes over, but his first missive is basically to cause a full mental crusade. Kermit, the place we were trying to get to, or Sakura for short. He sent out the whole holy army spearheaded by this blonde lady who we don't know much about yet, but who doesn't love a good crusade. We awake on the shore, with all of our gear except our trusty mushroom stew gone. After doing a fair bit of wandering, we found ourselves our first bonfire, or whisper in this game. We then jumped the broken bridge outside of it and we were met with our first minor challenge of the game. This big old dude wielding a two-handed axe. Meanwhile, all we had were our fists. But we start the fight off with the meanest of suplexes. But he then proceeds to absolutely cook our asses with a combo and we end up dying. Respawning at that whisper with reduced gear durability. Though even without having a weapon, I was still sort of a threat. Featuring some of the meanest 1-2 fist combos the world has ever seen. Taking on a 1v2 in the fort with some enemies despite the lack of gear. Even the fists in this game feel pretty awesome to use. And with that we get our first level up. It takes us to an all too familiar screen for both Souls and RPG fans alike. It's a fairly traditional system featuring health, stamina, weapon scaling rated stats, as well as two more unique stats called Focus and Equip Load. Focus being the system for utilizing abilities, and Equip Load is fairly self-explanatory. This game is also experience based rather than like a currency level up based like Souls games, which I find to be pretty nice. So, me being me, we went with a health and strength style build, aiming for the use of really big weapons that swing slow but hit like a truck. We continued cleaning this fort out with our bare hands like we were some sick reincarnation of Mike Tyson, till eventually we found a weapon, a blood-rusted one-handed sword. Even with the sword, some of the common enemies we ran into proved to be a bit of a challenge, particularly the bomb-throwing guys. Hey, Shotty, chill! Chill. I have a tendency, it seems, to not dodge the flying vat of fire coming my direction. Oh no, we getting bullied. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, there ain't no pause menus. What are we supposed to do here, guys? We're doing okay. Just gotta watch out for a crazy guy over there. Oi! But we still killed him and the rest of the camp. Okay, so if you just block nicely. You had a wooden sword? I was getting cooked by a guy with a wooden sword? Oh, hell no. Okay, so those fire bombs hurt his allies too. Oh, yeah. And it's like Skyrim level up where when you level you get full bars and stuff. But in typical Souls fashion, every door was locked with a key, and we had to go on a wild goose hunt to find said keys. Through some clever exploring, we found the key to the mess hall, where a man was being held up by 3 of the enemy troops. Little did we know just how much of a badass that man was. We stormed to the mess hall, taking out the enemies quite swiftly to finally meet the stranger. Introducing Fillmore, the blacksmith. This man not only sabotaged the gate so more soldiers couldn't get through, but he also held them up trying to stall them further. He's pretty much the GOAT in my eyes. And as all Souls fans know, the blacksmith is key to your future success. We made our way out the gate, finally being able to press onwards, taking a quick elevator ride up to a tower where we epically killed the 2 enemies, dunking on the final enemy with my claymore. We then ran into a father and her daughter chilling by a campfire with a dead deer. They were pretty nice, allowing me to use the campfire whenever I'd like, but more importantly, they mentioned a great beast that has been terrorizing the land nearby. After exploring, looting, and leveling up once more, we finally found the boss, Warwick the Torn, a giant, ugly, half spider crab looking thing with a big old greatsword. He was fast, aggressive, and pretty much everything you want out of a good boss fight, so much so that he absolutely gave me the works, only getting in 3 hits before I died the first time. So, I decided we needed to change some things. We felt too slow to wield the greatsword and have armor with our current equipment load, so I opted to use a one-handed sword with minimal armor instead. Also, I wanted to briefly mention the unique gathering system in this game. In the game, you can dig, chop trees, mine nodes, and fish. Each system has a sort of like timing minigame you get to play to gather faster and restore mana of your focus bar, basically, which again is used for your weapon abilities. So it has a good way to recover your resource bar, but also get resources as well. Anyways, back to the boss. This time we had a bit more of a plan. We applied our flame scale oil, a consumable that gave our weapon fire damage. This stacked with our weapon's ability to give ourselves fire damage led to us having quite the powerful swings with the one-hander. This time we gave the boss fight a proper go, feeling much faster and smooth. His moveset was quite fun to fight actually, between his raging charges, his crazy delayed jump attacks, and his plagued status debuffs. It was a fairly tough fight, but not punishing to the point where I don't want to play. We ended up slaying him this time, defeating our first boss in No Rest for the Wicked and hitting level 5. Woo! The boss dropped a pretty sick looking greatsword that had enchantments on it, but seemingly the way enchantments work in this game is that each has its positives and negatives. So for instance here, we get tanked status after inflicting the debuff infection, but also gain 30% lifesteal and max stamina while tainted. However, we will drain our own health bar while tainted as well. Leads to an amazing playstyle where you really have to get meaningful hits in, otherwise your HP bar will delete itself. Mechanics like these I love, where you can feel powerful but also humbled, where your skills as a player can really shine through. And that's pretty much where our playthrough ends this time. After being invited into Sacrament by Ellsworth and his compatriot Winnick, I know it's briefly say that I adore the art direction for characters in this game, but I expected nothing less from the people who brought us Ori and the Blind Forest. After spending a decent bit of time with No Rest for the Wicked, I'm honestly pretty stoked. Not just about this game, which I am, but where the entire genre could go. Because this game proves you don't need $1 billion budget, photorealism, or a 200-hour open world to make something truly compelling. What we need are games that take risks, games that focus on mechanics, style, and story, not just scope. And if more studios are willing to break away from the copy-paste formula, we might actually get back to what makes gaming great. But it's on us too. Players need to show up for games like this, not just the next Black Ops or the next FIFA game. If we support bold ideas, we get bold games. Thanks for watching, Let me know your thoughts below, and if you want to see more No Rest for the Wicked from me, I'd love to keep playing through it.